Okay, round 12 of the NRL season has now concluded. Only 5 matches this weekend because of Origin next week. Many teams had their bye round this week, which has impacted the NRL ladder, which we'll discuss at the end of the video. The opening match of the weekend was between the Bulldogs and the Dolphins. The Dolphins pull off yet another shock upset win, 44 points to 8. They did this against the Storm, where they scored 40 odd points. They've done against the Bulldogs. So they've beaten 2 of the top 4 and scored over 40 points doing it. The Bulldogs, this is a bit of a reality check for them. They are more hampered by Origin this year than last year. I think that's had an impact. They are missing a lot of players. They've still got a lot of players injured and suspended as well. But they found a way to keep winning, except they couldn't in this game. Now, the Dolphins have these kind of performances in them. They are not consistent enough, which is very, very frustrating. And they've been very inconsistent this season, going from losing streaks to winning streaks to losing streaks and back to winning again. There's no consistency with the Dolphins, but we know that they have this ability within their team to pull off a result like this. They are not consistent enough in doing it. In regards to the Bulldogs, it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond to this shock defeat. Every team has this kind of performance in them. No team can go through a whole season being perfect. We know this. It's a reality check for them a little bit. It's a harsh lesson they've got to learn in order to win. You've got to lose sometimes in order to be successful. So the Bulldogs are going to have to take this lesson on board in regards to game management, attack, defence, squad rotation, tactics. This is a learning curve for the team and Sorrello. On the Dolphins side of things, they need to be more consistent. Can they build upon this win, which they failed to do after beating the Storm convincingly as well? Can they build some consistency and some momentum? It's a very good win for the Dolphins, though. Did arrest a little bit of a slide they had been on. The Seagulls was another shock result. The Eels winning 30 points to 10. First time they've recorded back-to-back wins this season. That was without Lomax and Moses, which many Eels fans going into this game were concerned about missing those 2 key players. Would they be able to be competitive? They were more than competitive. They dominated the Sea Eagles, who were poor. They were poor. They didn't deal with it very well. The Origin period to start with, without Sherry Evans, for example, they didn't deal with that very well. Missing 2 of the 3 Trbojevic brothers. Tom Trbojevic is still not 100%. You can see he's looking a little bit better than he has done in recent weeks, but he's not 100%. He's not 100% effective. And that is a poor result for the Sea Eagles. And their form is also a bit inconsistent. The Eels, though, that is a really good morale-boosting win in a rebuilding season. And they're no longer bottom of the NRL ladder either. So the Eels are slowly improving. They've been showing in recent weeks that they are a better side than what they've produced so far this season. The Sea Eagles I have some concerns about the Sea Eagles going forward. Will they actually make the top 8? Will they be a top 8 final side? Will they go on a run to the grand final? A lot of people at the start of the season thought they had that ability. There's some results so far this season that are raising a few question marks about the Sea Eagles and their consistency and their ability to compete for a top 8 slot. Another shock win, the Knights beating the Panthers up in Bathurst, 25 points to 6. Why can't the Knights do this more consistently? And the Panthers are now bottom of the NRL ladder. That draw against the Cowboys has proven crucial. It may also prove crucial towards the end of the season as well. This was a poor performance by the Panthers. The Knights, why can't they produce this week in, week out? They've had a couple of results like this where they've had some really good wins. And they look better without Kalen Ponga in the side. It's noticeable. They actually look better without him in the team. So that's going to pose some conundrums going forward. The way the spine played without him, they looked more competent, fluid, and a better attacking threat than they have done with him in the side. So that's going to raise some question marks about the Knights roster, especially with Dylan Brown joining next year. So it is raising some question marks about what their spine should look like. But they looked better without him. And he's on a big contract. Dylan Brown's joining on a big contract. He had a good game for the Eels against the Eagles. So that's positive signs for the Knights. The player coming into the spine for next year had a good game. And the player who's the leader of the team wasn't there. And they played better without him. So the Knights are a conundrum. Adam O'Brien, even with this win, is still under a lot of pressure. They've got to build on this win. The most they've done is 2 back-to-back wins to start the season. Their form since then has been poor, but they've had a good Magic round and they've had a good win against the Panthers away from Newcastle. But at the same time, you've got to question the spine makeup, and Kalen Ponga's role within that spine, because they look better without him. Sharp really does look good in the halves or at fullback, and so there's question marks with Dylan Brown coming in. Where does he slot in with Jack Cogger and others who could play in the halves like Crossland? They looked better. So that's my opinion of the Knights out of this game, but it was a brilliant performance by the Knights. Second half, not so dominant, but they did the damage in the first half over the Panthers. The Roosters, another good win for the Roosters against the Sharks, 42 points to 16. The Sharks laid an egg here. The Roosters are showing some fight and some compete level. This is another team that's sort of going through a rebuild phase. Very short on troops at the moment, players injured and suspended, and with Origin as well. 42 points to 16. Brilliant result for the Roosters, and Mark Nawaqanitawase continues to impress. And there's talk about him maybe going back to rugby union or other NRL clubs wanting to get his signature. He continues to impress. And so it's the Roosters are scrapping and fighting, considering their poor start to the season. They've had some of these big wins. They've had some big losses. But they're exciting to watch, and some of their young fringe players are getting a run in the side because of injuries, because of suspensions, because of Origin, and they are impressing as well. Savala in the halves is a good, is a good promotion from reserve grade into the halves. That is working. That is working since he's been in there. The performances have been a lot better, and so the Roosters are posing some conundrums for their spine going forward. When Sam Walker, for example, is back from injury, there are some conundrums in regards to how their spine should look. They've let Brandon Smith go, so if he was to come back to fitness, he's not going to be there. So their spine is going to look a bit different, and there are some roster management questions to answer. But at the moment, they're playing well, they're competitive, they're climbing up the ladder. And if you look at the bottom half of the NRL ladder, there are 5 teams on 10 points, for example. A couple of wins completely changes how the ladder looks. The Panthers are last on 9 points, but their points differential is superior to the teams above them. So, yeah, a couple of wins really shakes up how the NRL ladder looks, and the Roosters getting this big win over the Sharks really shakes up the bottom half of the ladder. Now, the final game of the weekend, played in horrendous conditions down in Auckland, is the Warriors-Raiders. A rematch of Vegas, and the Raiders win again, 16 points to 10. They were 8-0 down at one point, with 3 sin bins in the game. Starling nearly blew it for the Raiders right at the death with a late high shot on Harris Tavita, which was stupid. And as a Raiders fan, I'm just holding my head going, oh Christ, here we go again, ill-disciplined. Because the first half for the Raiders, they were very ill-disciplined. They were 8-0 down at one point. It is 8-all at half-time, because Adam Pompey had a brain fart and decided to be offside for a goal line dropout by about 3 metres, and so kicked right in front of the post on the stroke of half-time. So the Warriors were in a commanding position. When the Warriors were up a player in the first half, they actually conceded a try, which is concerning. Now, the Warriors have a very good defence. Their attack is actually a bit anemic, and that is proven today. The Raiders have a better attack than the Warriors do, and that sort of on points scored, and that sort of played out. There's a converted tries difference overall. In testing conditions, the goal kicking was perfect by both Metcalf and Fogarty. So that was an arm wrestle, and it was the tightest game of the weekend in regards to points differential, only 6 points differential. The others are all blowout scores. This was a clash between 4th and 2nd, and again, with how close the ladder is in regards to points at the top as well as at the bottom, and points differential, the Warriors, not anemic attack, but weaker attack in regards to points scored in regards to the Raiders, the Storm and the Bulldogs, could prove the difference between 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And so, well, they've got a great defence, and they kept it, they're averaging really well with the defence. They're the 3rd best defence overall. Losing a tight game like that is problematic. But recently they've won a couple of tight games by a handful of points. So the Warriors, their scorelines, when they're playing, there's only a handful of points differential either way, which is why their points differential is so low compared to the Raiders, Storm and Bulldogs in the top 4. So there we go. The Storm, Bunnies, Tigers, Dragons, Broncos, Cowboys and Titans all had a bye this week. It's going to be interesting to see how the Origin period affects every team. We saw a lot of debutants this weekend in the five matches that were played. There was a lot of debutants, and so a lot of fringe players and up-and-coming young players are going to get a run out over this Origin period. It's going to be interesting to see the conditions up in Brisbane for Game 1 and also for Game 3 for the Women's Origin in Newcastle, because we've seen a lot of heavy rain over the last couple of months in the NRL on the East Coast. Heavy rain. There's been heavy rain in New Zealand as well. And that's impacted a lot of matches. So the weather conditions are going to have a part to play. I mean, look at Magic Round. It just chucked it down over Magic Round. But there we go. So that's 12 rounds in the books. We will preview round 13 later. We'll have to discuss the Bulldogs and Lockie Galvin in a separate video, because that is a developing story and it's going to have an impact on what the Bulldogs spine looks like as soon as next week. So thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.